Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Sea of Thieves News. This week, Joni gives us all the latest news from the game. Andrew Preston gives us our first look at a fiery new reward. And James Thomas talks us through some new accessibility features coming to the game. As usual, we've got a lot to get through this week, so let's get started.
Hey everyone, so today we're going to be talking about our next update, which is coming on July 22nd, and it's called Ashen Winds. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about just kind of combat and hit registration, and then you've got James Thomas and Andrew Preston with some insights into what's coming. So just on hit registration, as we've talked about before, we have a dedicated part of the team focusing on this, and you know, it's really important to us when people submit kind of evidence that it really helps us actually identify things that are going wrong. So if you encounter something where you think hit registration isn't behaving properly, it's super helpful if you submit a support ticket or even just kind of share videos on Twitter and stuff and fire it across to us. And it really helps us identify specific cases and fix them. So like one of the previous ones that we've had is where people were docked to kind of objects on ships. And we saw enough of those clips that we were like, hold on, there's something really not quite right here. And it allowed us to look at some of the hitbox stuff that had regressed in that specific area. So alongside the hit registration stuff that I just talked about, we've also just been looking generally about kind of how damage is dealt in the game. And so one of the things that hasn't been working as intended for a while now actually is that kind of damage being dealt through the environment. So that can happen with both melee and ranged weapons. And the solid surfaces of the ship is something we've been working on to ensure that actually that behaves as we expect. So we've stopped damage being dealt through the ship, so you can't be kind of on the top deck and being shot up from the bottom deck. And this means now that the kind of some of those really advanced tactics will change in terms of how people play with combat on ships, but it means you can kind of duck behind masts for cover, or you can run below deck and use the environment there to help during combat. So we believe this is a kind of big improvement, will be a bit of a change for some of our most advanced players, but we're very happy that we've kind of managed to fix that after it not working as we wanted for a while. But that's it from me. So you know, there's some much more interesting stuff coming in the next couple of videos. So I'll see you next time.
So for our next content update, we're bringing a brand new encounter, but I'm not going to spoil that today. Instead, I'm going to speak about the reward that we get for that encounter because it's quite unique. So the Ashen Wind skull is a new skull that players can sell to the Order of Souls for gold, or they can choose to use it as a weapon against any player or any PvE threat in the world. If players do choose to use the skull as a weapon, they can wield the skull and then kind of wrench open its mouth, and then this jet of hot fire will come out like a flamethrower. So players can use the flame from the Ashen Wind skull to damage whatever they choose, be it skeletons or players or even boarding other ships and setting them ablaze. So as players use the Ashen Wind skull, the charge inside depletes, and so does the amount of gold that it's worth. So players can choose to sell it early for a large amount of gold, or they can choose to use it as a weapon and ultimately sell it for a much less amount of gold later on. So we can't wait for players to get their hands on the Ashen Wind skull as part of the new encounter in the next content update.
So accessibility is really important to us here at Rare, and especially on Sea of Thieves. It's something that we've tried to improve ever since day one. And so we've managed to put in things like the colorblind mode, we've put in things like speech to text, and the next thing that we're introducing is a single stick mode. Not everyone, we know, finds it comfortable to hold a traditional controller. And so, for those who might want to rearrange their input slightly, you can switch all the movement and camera control to the left or the right stick. So it means that there's less complexity and less reliance on holding a single joystick down. And alongside that, we've added aspects like an auto-centering camera. So if you don't want to worry about where your camera's facing up and down, this will auto-center to the horizon for you. And equally, with those with a phobia of being underwater, we've got an auto-float option, so you can just bob to the surface and not worry about the dark depths below. But of course, we're not done yet. We've got great plans ahead. There is more to come. There is always more we can do. The community of Sea of Thieves is wide, but we want to make sure that everyone has the possibility of coming in, joining their friends on a boat, and seeking out adventure.
Thank you very much for watching. If you want to stay up to date with all the latest Sea of Thieves news, then like, subscribe, and click that little ship's bell for all those notifications. Cheers.